I'm joined today by another prolific veteran of all ages, really. She's honestly, you've been around since the very beginning until now, so you've covered everything and seen everything for the most part. I gotta say, I'm kind of excited about this one because I know you've seen all and done it all.
Well, yeah, I've been around since around 60 million years ago before that meteorite struck Earth and killed all the dinosaurs. Some of us are still walking around, you see. Me, ex-Gargoyle, JJWA, Edgar, some still survive.
Yeah, and they are going to get interviewed too, so they're not safe.
Definitely. They would have to be better memory than I do.
Hopefully.
I'm pretty bad with names.
Anything you remember is appreciated here, though, because I'm even with that. There's a lot of stuff that I'm gonna pick your brain with, and I'm sure the people listening are gonna want to hear about it too. So right off the top, 16 years. Where did it all start for you? Like, how did you find this thing?
Well, I was a college girl at my second year of college, working on a Bachelor of Computer Science. So I was bored one night. It was a Friday night, I'm not exactly a party girl, and I started looking around. I was sort of into emulators at the time, and I ran into an emulator site I usually visit for news, October 23rd, 1999. And they were saying that M.U.G.E.N has just released its 19XX 10.19 version. So I downloaded it and thought it would be interesting and would be fun to mess with for 6 months, maybe. And 16 years ago, I'm still here.
Yeah. Honestly, I kind of just knew that I was gonna end up doing some crazy stuff with that thing. The first time I laid eyes on it, when I realized I could make stuff for it too.
Well, I started looking at that at the time. We didn't have expressions, we didn't have documentation, we didn't have shit. I had even to, I needed to email Dion Alekbyte that was working on the engine by the time, asking how the fuck did I add a number to a variable. I couldn't use revise that var plus 1. It wouldn't work because there was no expression. Turns out they had a var add as control. It was just the state of things at that time. We had very incomplete list of S controls you could use, a very incomplete list of triggers we could use, and some not documented that could be used. It wasn't used on test P characters nor Kung Fu Man. So it was a fairly confusing time. And test P had a BBS, not a forum. So people would post questions and replies, and then the questions would get deleted while the replies still lie around. It was a pretty fun time. It was very interesting because no one knew anything. We couldn't do much with the engine because it was very limited. Cells hadn't even started on MSCM at that time, so we had to build SSF using Sprite Maker, Pair Maker. Mugen and Jitten assembled by Ragnarok wasn't a thing yet either, so we just were very bare bones back. There were a bunch of confused kids in their late teens, early 20s, just having fun, trying to figure things out to make things stuff work.
Wow. So you did send me your absolute first character, and you gave me two other ones too that I checked out. So both of those,
Yes!
all three of those, are gonna make an
That her
appearance.
very first character has files that are older than some forum users right now on Guild. It's mind blowing. Those files are older than people that posted Guild. What the fuck I'm still doing here? I'm too old for this shit.
Well, I believe it was Kage. It was like this ninja character. So what made you go with that one?
Well, back in 1999, I had a Cyrix 75 megahertz with 24 megs of RAM. I couldn't exactly run an Rage, even the DOS version. I could play it with no sound, frame skip 3, and so it wasn't exactly ideal to hip sprites, and I had very fond memories of Legend of Kage. I played it a lot when I was a wee lass, you see. It was a very fun game, so I just pulled it on an NES emulator, ripped sprites, digited it here and there, and coded it in 2 or 3 days just to see how that shit worked. Had some fun. It was possibly the first character that had a suicide attack, that he would kill himself. It didn't work very well because we didn't exactly knew that M.U.G.E.N had a very specific number for the end state to end the infinite, and I quote, infinite state machine. So if the character isn't at that state, the round takes quite a long while to finish.
Wow. So 2 to 3 days. I didn't even get that good until like my 7th year at minimum.
The shit had about 60 sprites, 60. So it didn't take too long. Of course, it was all misaligned, it was awful, it was pretty much a piece of shit, but hey, I had fun.
Well, I mean, it's still a lot better than most things I've played with, honestly. So don't put too much bad thought on it.
It's an image of the state of things out there because I couldn't mess up with math and stuff. There wasn't no expressions, so I couldn't do much. We didn't even have helpers back then. It was either projectiles or players, so you have very little control over projectiles. Helpers were introduced at, I believe, 0101 version.
Mhm.
Yeah, yes, it was. Right on 0101. Then expressions was introduced on 0627. Then things started to get fun because I
see.
could mess with math.
So the gameplay that this character had was just kind of you just winged it and just put some stuff together, or
Yeah, I was just figuring stuff out. How the fuck this work? I had as examples Kung Fu Man, Orochi by VK, and Rugal by BK back then. I took a look at that, saw what they did, started to mess around with code, copied, changed variables, changed stuff, because we had no documentation back then, so we didn't have a list of parameters of S controls. So you had to look at test P characters or KFM to figure out the parameters. And just mess it up, put something together, and put it in the web.
So like you've already given me like at least 5 things that I would be just daunted at, like not even sure how to handle. But what would you say was the biggest challenge for you at the time?
There was no documentation. So we didn't know what engine could do. It wasn't until Jasper put together a list of S controls and triggers. And even that list didn't have all the parameters listed. It only had the names. So until 0627, when documentation was put out for M.U.G.E.N by Elecbyte, we didn't have much stuff to work with. We had to keep figuring stuff out. But around the time 0101 ruled, TSP had a forum instead of a BBS, so it was a bit easier to exchange information. But largest problem was because there was no documentation, and there was no math, no expression, no nothing, so we couldn't go wild with the engine.
Yeah, I would say that would be immediately a problem for anyone ever. Like, what are you even supposed to do? You don't know what's possible. It's kind of like the dilemma where we had with 1.1 a while ago when people didn't know we could actually mess with the zooming or whatever. So
Yeah.
history repeats itself.
And at that time, I didn't use the drink, so it was even more difficult because coding is easier when you are drunk.
I have yet to try that.
There's this golden region when you are fairly tipsy when code flows easier. It's pretty interesting, but if you get too drunk, it won't work. Your code will be terrible. It will be bug-filled.
I can imagine. So, given what we know now and what you know now today, what advice would you give yourself if you were to talk to yourself from 16 years ago?
I wouldn't say anything to myself. I would just wave and say goodbye to that person walking dead, because right now I'm pretty happy with who I am, and who I am is a combination, a sum of all the mistakes I did, all my success. So I would just let that 19-year-old girl do all the same mistakes I did, go through all the things I went through, because you need to get all that knowledge. When you do mistakes, you learn more than when you do right things. So if I were to tell anything to myself, I would be spoiling myself. I would be denying me that experience. I don't see how giving myself advice in the past would be of any use.
That's a very good answer to that question, I'll tell you that. So, You briefly spoke about some of the community and a lot of the people you knew, but what was it like in general to be in that time period where everything was so fresh and new? The community, was there even one at the time? Like, what was going on then?
It was pretty exciting because some people were already figuring how to debug stuff. The PK knew a lot of deep shit streets at M.U.G.E.N, so he was doing some perfect conversions, perfect for the time, of course, given the limitations of the engine. But some people used his code and then he went mad and just took it out of offline, which pretty much started that whole elite thing that people didn't want other people to use their codes as something quite ridiculous. But before that, it was pretty exciting. We were figuring shit out. It was pretty fun because we didn't know much. We didn't know how to debug. We didn't have the tools to debug.
Wow.
We had Mama that allowed us to debug a bit later, but it was only on some builds. Now Rage X came around this time and had pretty good ripping tools as well, so it made it easier to do SNK characters. But we didn't have the knowledge how to extract the data. We were using screenshots to sometimes to calculate the distance, but even then the measure was wrong. We didn't have the tools to make something accurate, and even the engine didn't allow it because it didn't have the tools. It was pretty limited by the time.
Sounds like a mess. But like the friends that you know now, how did you meet some of them, for example, too?
Just performance, I mailed him right at beginning around 99 and we started to communicate. We started exchanging emails, then we started talking on IRC. It was pretty fun because he was a very open person. He helped me a lot to understand myself as a person as well. And the other people, it was at the forums, at IRC too, and some of us just stuck around, like Rolando, Ellie, and we're still here 16 years later. All the people that started time, but I have to say I had a lot of fun at the time because it was a mess, as you said, and there's nothing more funnier than just getting onto a mess and figuring how the shit works, how the stuff works, and how to make it work the way you want it to work. It is fun.
Yeah, experimentation is often still one of my favorite things about what I do now, and given that I've made so many characters, which in some days is harder for me to even think about than others, that I still find new things to do, or in some shape or form.
Breaking the engine is the very best thing one can do. It's so fun. The problem is that I broke it M.U.G.E.N as much as possible for now, so I'm kind of bored with it, and I haven't done anything in a very long while.
Well, you're still here, and that's the important part to
Community
me
is still
anyway.
fun. Yeah, the community is fun. I had a lot of friends, people I want to meet in real life, to sit and have a drink, so I'm still around.
While you were doing a lot of your stuff, like, was there somebody who you could talk to ask for help, or did you ever ask for help at all?
No, I just threw ideas around in Nerk and tried to make it work. And usually I was bored, so I look at what I can do with the engine to break it today, which led to that program I sent you, that I started to mess around with bitwise operations, started to mess around with a lot of math, and finally it peaked at that Bezier curves code because I thought I'm bored here. I'm 25 years old, so what can I do to entertain myself? Bezier curves, let's see if M.U.G.E.N can do that. Turn out it could.
Yeah, your code still baffles me even now, and like a lot of bitwise stuff. I don't think I've done any bitwise stuff in M.U.G.E.N in general because I can't make the connection in my head to do it in M.U.G.E.N, even though I've done it so long with C and other languages.
It was interesting because you see, math at M.U.G.E.N is broken. At least it was broken until 1.0. You couldn't do powers. After power of 22, it would start giving you wrong answers, wrong numbers for the power function. And it couldn't do square roots. I wrote a code to do that with using exp as well because you see, Necromancer was wanting to use square roots. A lot of people wanted that how to do square roots back then. But since M.U.G.E.N's math is broken, they wrote some float code magical float code instead of just including math.h on their code and be done with it and using real float variables with real precision. No, let's try something new. Let's try to write this, and they mess that stuff up. And until this day, we suffer with that. So I set myself to fix that someday. Back, actually, I believe in 2001. And I started to study Taylor series. And I tried to implement that in a helper and in a code to calculate square root. And turns out that you can't do that because M.U.G.E.N's math was broken. The precision was at what, 10 power minus 3. So I tried to use their expressions to calculate, but in the end I had to hard code the numbers because if you use a multiplication you calculated the factorials, it would give you a wrong number. Then
Wow.
I wrote that and it gave me square root for around the power of 10 of minus 3. I posted it at M.U.G.E.N Dev and NMSC came and said, hey, you can use exp. Exp is not broken. Exp is not broken. No, then I put there and oh, look, it works for square roots. It won't work for general roots if you use a division. Write in the code fvar1 divided by fvar3 because M.U.G.E.N math is broken. But if you use hard-coded number, it will give you a more approximated value for your root. If it's root of the power of 3 or root of the power of 4. That was quite a long time ago. It was fun. It was very fun.
Sounds like you
Studying
had
Taylor.
fun for sure.
Yeah, I had. Studying Taylor series was pretty interesting.
So, since you've been around longer than most people have been on this planet at this point when it comes to Mugen, what advice would you give anybody who wants to start working with it today?
Get your hands dirty. Sit around, rip some sprites, make a character. It will be the worst character ever, like that Kamekaze, like my half. It won't matter. You will learn. You will get and you will understand how things start working and you will start to get better. But make sure that you are having fun with it. If you are not having fun, there's no point in doing it. This is a fucking hobby. You should be doing it for fun, not for fame, not to say you are the best of the best of the best. You have to do it for fun. If you're having fun, keep going. You will get better at it. You will do good shot. You will code interesting stuff. There's a lot of resources out there nowadays. You have a lot of tools to use. Use them. Look at the code of other people. We have a full library of codes for you to look. Ask questions. Get your hands dirty. Just sit and do it. Just do it. Shia LaBeouf says. Just fucking do it. You can make your dreams come true. It's a matter of getting your hands dirty and keep getting them dirty until you get better at it, until you get good at it. We didn't get to Mars and populate Mars with fucking robots by sitting and saying, oh, we can't do it. We got our hands dirty. We studied math. We studied physics. We studied it. M.U.G.E.N is a canvas. You can play with math. You can play with physics. You can play with it. Learn something while doing it.
Nice.
And what's most important, have fun. Keep having fun. If it's not having fun, it's not worth doing.
I would agree. Like, if you're not having fun with this anymore, that's the time when you should start thinking about maybe doing something else. And I have moments where Mugen starts to not be as fun, but I tend to break that by doing something I've never done before. And that's kind of why I've done so many different things in so many different styles, just to keep it interesting for me.
Exactly. It's a matter of keeping having fun. I don't do much moving stuff nowadays because it's fun for me. I reached the peak of it and now the only way to go is down. After I coded that best year code, there's nothing much I can do to break the engine. I tried to code Tetris, but I was using a matrix of bitwise operations to draw the playing field. But you see, the M.U.G.E.N has a limitation of F controls per state, and you don't have user-defined functions. So I pretty much broke that limit, and there was nothing I could do about it. I could try to break it into helpers, but the helper only starts on the next tick. So each helper I added it would decrease the frame rate of the gameplay by a factor of 2 actually. It would go from 60 frames per second to 30 frames per second, 20 frames per second, and so on. So it was just not worth it.
Understandable. So, any last words you got for anyone listening, or just some you want to get out?
Nothing much. just what as I said, make sure you're having fun, make sure you spread knowledge, because we are here to make sure that the next generation is better than we are. If we don't make sure, if we don't spread knowledge, that won't happen. We'll get on a stale situation and humanity won't go further away. We need to reach for the stars, so make sure that you spread the knowledge and share it with your peers so that the next generation can be better than you are.
I think that says it best, honestly. Well, I do thank you for being able to sit down and talk with me.
I thank you for taking your time and interviewing me. Not a lot of people know me still because I have never been a big name in the community and the scene, but I have been around for a long time. A really long time. God damn it, there are people that are younger than and I've been around. I'm too old for this shit. But I will still stay around.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you do, and the fact that you kind of saved my ass in college like at least 7 or 8 times. So it was very important that you were where you were.
As I said, we're here to make sure that next generation is better than we are. Some two of my teachers taught me that back in college. It's pretty important that we keep making sure that the people that come after us are better than us.
Yeah,
So I'm glad I could be of help to you during college.
yeah, because like honestly, between you and E and Insanius, like all three of you kind of collectively came in and saved me whenever I needed help on a lot of things. But that's not exactly M.U.G.E.N related.